Adonai, our God, creator of the universe, who gives us the opportunity to soak ourselves in Torah, to get busy with the Torah. All right. Oh, man. This isn't it. This is a good one. This is a good one this week. And I have a couple of, I don't know, soapboxes is the right idea, but or the right words, but I definitely know there's going to be some serious pushback today. I'm looking at you, Panina. See, that was what I'm doing. But there's definitely going to be some pushback today. But we're at Parshat Yitro, which is all fabulous. And there's some things in here that I never really considered. Because the usual stuff, it's about the 10 Commandments at first, and then like asking for and he can't do everything on his own. So this was very, very interesting. I may start with that and then go to the other cuckoo bananas part, but because I want to share a story with you. Let me put up the let's put it up here. Well, actually, we gotta make sure we get it up here, right? Boom, 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 boom. Hold on a second. Nope, 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 nope. Here it is. Oh, no, share this. All right. Here we go. Look at this. Yitro, we've got, I'm just going to read a couple of pieces. Oh, we got some people who want to join in. Oh, here comes Doug. Doug's joining in. Wait a second, put this here like this. I got to see everybody. Doug, we've been waiting for you. We've been waiting 10 minutes for you, but thank God you showed up. Here we go. Do I even go here? All right, there are three major things that I want to get to today. And I'm going to go from least controversial to maybe most controversial. You're like, get to it already. I know, I will. Stop yelling at me. Douglas, fabulous to have you. No, we're not doing that one. Here. So now what's going on? The Israelites, they've left Egypt, the seas parted. Now they're on their way to Mount Sinai, right, where Moses is going to go and get the 10 Commandments. Spoiler alert, in case you didn't know that, that's what's about to happen. But he's having trouble getting anybody to go anywhere, because all they do is all Moses is having to do is deal with problems, and he doesn't want to start walking in the night. He wants to walk during the day, but he can't go anywhere if he's dealing with everybody's problems, right? He thinks he's the only one who can do this. So he's like, the next day Moses sat as magistrate among the people, while the people stood about Moses from the morning until the evening. It's like they were all lining up. He can't even see the end of the line. He's like, can't even see the end of the line, right? But when Moses' father-in-law saw how much he had to do for the people, he said, what is this thing that you are doing to the people? Why do you act alone while all the people stand about you from morning until evening? Moses replied to his father-in-law, it is because the people come to me to inquire of God. When they have a dispute, it comes before me, and I decide between one person and another, and I make known the laws and teachings of God. But Moses' father-in-law said to him, the thing you are doing is not right. You will surely wear yourself out, and these people as well, for the task is too heavy for you. You cannot do it alone. Now listen to me. I will give you counsel, and God be with you. You represent the people before God. You bring the disputes before God and enjoin upon them the laws and the teachings, and make known to them the way they are to go and the practices that they are to follow. You shall also seek out from among the people capable men who fear God, trustworthy men, who spurn ill-gotten gain. Set these over them as chieftains of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens, and let them judge the people at all time. Have them bring every major dispute to you. Have them bring every major dispute to you if you do this, and God so command. Oh, and every minor dispute themselves. Make it easier for yourself by letting them share the burden. Share the burden with you. If you do this, and God so commands you, you will be able to bear up, and all these people too will go home unwearied. Moses heeded his father-in-law and did just as he had said. Moses chose capable men out of Israel and appointed them heads over the people, chiefs of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens, and they judged the people at all times. The difficult matters they would bring to Moses, and all the minor matters they would decide themselves. And Moses bade his father-in-law farewell, and he went on his way to his own land.
I see.
Now, what's going on here? Just give me like the pshat, the simple, here it is, this is what we're looking at in a couple words. What's going on here?
Moses is complaining about everybody complaining to him.
Well, he's not complaining so much yet. Because his father-in-law sees it.
Right.
Right? So what is going on? So all these people are complaining. And why is Moses doing this by himself? Why is he doing it by himself?
He doesn't want to ask anybody to help him.
He did not ask anybody to help him. So what does his father-in-law say? Dude, you can't do this by yourself. You need to ask for help. Look, let's hook it up. We're going to get all these people. There are capable people here going to help you. Yes, God put you in charge, but that doesn't mean that you have to do it by yourself, right? Good leadership is knowing when to ask for help and then actually doing so. Is basically what I think that he's saying to him. Roy, what you got? And then I got an interesting question.
Well, that's exactly it, is that this entire passage is about a lesson in leadership. It's about sort of moral and ethical leadership. You need leaders that have sort of an understanding of human character, whose moral character and behavior is exemplary. And then you can't singularly be the leader. You need to learn to share the responsibilities just so that the weight is not on your shoulder, but you're also preparing others to take over the reins and the mantle of leadership over time.
But why this lesson? Theoretically, right? Does this kind of seem like duh to you?
It may not be apparent to everyone.
Okay, why not?
Because not everyone is a leader. They could be a follower.
Let's not even talk about that. Let's just talk about, instead of looking at it, the specifics of what's going on, let's look at what is the moral of the story, right? Rather than looking at the specifics, not everybody's going to be able to be a leader, right? But let's look at the moral, or what is it trying to teach?
That you have to be willing to ask people to help you.
Be willing to ask people to help you. Now,
because then everyone gets engaged.
This way, everybody in any way possible, that it's for other people to be engaged, but also for you to understand you can't do it all alone. Yeah. Right? You can't do it all alone. What you got, Doug?
It seems like he's powerful. He didn't want the job to begin with, but now that he's got it, he's getting all full of himself. And I'm the only one that can do it. And I've got the only access to God. And I find it curious that it's a woman who tells him, knock it off. You're not so much.
It's not the woman.
No, it wasn't it was his father-in-law.
Okay.
But this is an interesting point. Okay, let me go ahead, Brad, and then I want to tell you why this is so interesting to me specifically now.
Well, I'm wondering to what extent Moses learned the lesson here. I mean, I'm thinking of the incident of the daughters of Zelophehad, where when the issue is raised to Moses, Moses, instead of resolving it at his level, pushes it up to God. So, to what extent has he taken ownership of this role that's been given him when a decision can't be made at the lower level and it's pushed up to him? And instead of resolving it, he pushes it up to God to resolve.
So maybe it's actually proving the point that this dilemma was so important and so big that he's like, dude, this is even above my pay grade. Right? That he knows. So maybe it actually shows that he learned the lesson. I like that. Okay, perhaps. Okay, Pnina, and then I got to tell you why I'm even bringing this up.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
You're
Okay,
muted.
I think
You're
I'm going to
muted.
try to
Pnina,
make
you're
it.
muted.
Oh,
I'm just
No,
kidding.
she's
You're not
not.
muted. I'm just
Okay.
kidding. Go.
Now you're muted.
Now you're muted. You're muted. I was messing with you. Not cool. I'm sorry. I got something to add to my Yom Kippur.
okay now?
Now we can, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go back
Sorry.
to something very basic that may explain why the drama of showing a little bit vulnerability here. Okay. We have to go back to his name. His name was Moshe because she drew him out of the water. And she picked him up because she thought that's why he was special. And it goes back to this idea that there was a time when water, two bodies of water, were considered to be a source of birth to the gods. It was called the Amuna Elis. I kept going back to it now because this is actually the whole idea of why he was so special in the eyes of the Pharaoh's daughter and in the eyes of these people. So him being drawn out of the water made him look like he had some power, like godly powers. So I think that fact worked for his benefit when it came to Pharaoh and he was talking to Pharaoh as an equal and asked for his people to go, even though he was a little shy because of his speech. But I think the people followed him also because of this. This whole idea of the one God was developed later, right? It wasn't introduced yet. He was considered to have powers, and that's why they listened to him. So now, when he has to judge them, and it's a problem because he has to show vulnerability of a human being, of not able. But the fact that his father-in-law, a very down-to-earth person who was a shepherd himself, the daughters was like not something that like royalty, even though he was like a head of maybe a tribe or something. But Jethro saw him as a person, and he didn't acquire him all these powers of being a son of a god. And he told him, hey, you need help. And once he achieved this duty, he went back home because he figured, he's got his own path. He's got his own family. He's got his own problems. And he said, okay, now he knows his own powers. Now he knows that he needs help. Now the people is going to recognize that he's not that special. He went back and he left.
Or maybe he is,
see
right?
What happens.
But, and that's like the way
Moses
that people
now
perceive,
has to show
that's the way that
he
people,
is
hold on.
vulnerable.
Hold on.
Okay.
So perhaps we don't know how Moses perceived himself in that sense, because he kept seeing himself as unworthy. That's the perception of other people, but then it's his internal kind of conflict. So maybe he was like, he didn't want to be perceived as quote unquote needing help. Okay, so now let's check this out. This is fantastic. So all of us here maybe are like, yeah, of course. But it's not of course. If we think about it in truth of our lives today as adults. Because here's the thing. When I was telling this story to the nursery school kids this past Wednesday, right? And I was like, yeah, Moses had to ask for help. And it was just like, he had no idea. He was like, but I'm in charge. God wouldn't have put me in charge if God didn't think I could do this. This is like, leadership can also mean you know when to ask for help. And for these nursery school kids, they're like, yeah, duh, of course. And one kid says, you know, when I'm learning to tie my shoe, I can't always tie my shoe by myself. I have to ask for help. So I asked my teacher to help me tie my shoe. They help me tie my shoe. And then that's how I learn.
Right.
Brilliant. So then I started thinking, because I think about in terms of, you know, we as adults have such a hard time asking for help. I guarantee all of us at one point in our life or one aspect of our life, or we need help, but we refuse to ask out of fear, maybe out of rejection, maybe because we don't want to seem not as strong as perhaps we're perceived to be, or not being an expert in something. I don't know how to do this. I need to ask for help. But no, like the stereotypical classic, you know, I don't need directions. I don't need to stop to ask for directions. I know where I'm going, when you have no idea where you're going, but you're too proud to ask for help. So I started thinking about when in the human condition does that change? Does that evolve? Where for kids, they're like, duh, of course you need to ask for help. Of course. That's how you learn. That's how you grow.
Well, he asked for
Five-year-old,
the beginning from his
a
brother.
5-year-old said this to me. And I believe this to be a huge idea. Like, so in your own opinion, how does that change in us as humans as we get older, that we become less wise than a 5-year-old of understanding what we actually need to go far in life? Merle, what you got for us?
Because there's a perception that we shouldn't have to ask for help.
Why though? Where is this coming from?
Because I don't know where it comes from, but it's people have it in their head that I'm older, I should know how to do these things. If I can help a 5-year-old, or a 5-year-old asks me for help and I can help him or her, why do I need to ask others for help because I'm older? I think that's just what in people's heads. I don't think that it's real.
And yeah, Brad, hook us up.
Well, you know, I would say in this country, it's the continuing impact of what we call the Protestant ethic of self-reliance on. These were the first people that believed that they didn't need an intercessor, that they could read the Bible on their own. And we're in this country imbued with that, what's called the Protestant ethic.
Fascinating. We're going to go Doug, Roy, Rebecca.
I was just going to say that I think it comes from his pride, or our pride. We don't want to admit we're weak.
Pride. Say more about that.
No, that's not fair.
No, well, I'll explain it.
Go ahead.
Okay, Rebecca, you're going to hook it up for Doug. Sorry, Roy. We'll go Rebecca and then we'll hook you up, Roy.
So this is my classic should have asked for help. I was a homeowner all by myself, and I was always climbing up on the roof to clean gutters, to check the roofing material. And I had an extension ladder. And so I went up on the roof, and I looked at the ladder after I got up there, and I went, oh, this is not in a good position. And so I decided I would move the ladder. And of course, it fell. It collapsed on itself, but I caught it. So there I was, stuck on the roof, hanging onto this ladder, trying to get the ladder back into the extension and lock it.
How'd that turn out for you?
It was pride. It was total pride, Oh, hey, I can get on the roof all by myself. I'm a homeowner. I know how to do this. When I should have asked for help. So I was stuck on the roof for a while until I could get that ladder into the extended position again. And so finally I told the story to my neighbor, and he said, well, next time you better take your cell phone up there with you.
I said to my wife the other day when she asked me, she's like, we need to call a plumber to help fix this hot water dispenser from the sink. And I'm like, I can do it. She's like, how do you don't know how to do this? I said, I have YouTube. So I watched a YouTube video. I worked on the hot water dispenser, and then it just actually cost me more money because I, jacked it up and we had to get it fixed. But it's fascinating. Roy, you go.
The question is fascinating, interesting, and so I'm sort of working my way through it. So here's my theory. It actually may deal with more our sort of animal instincts of not showing any vulnerability. Animals can't show vulnerability. A way a human kind of starts to differentiate themselves away from animals is being able to engage in more complex interpersonal relationships, such as being able to show your vulnerability. In doing so, you actually have courage and bravery, and be able to endure a back and forth with another individual. So it's my pop psychology analysis.
So what I'm hearing is like, if we show our vulnerability, what the result will be is actually being stronger.
Correct.
Wow. Which may initially feel counterintuitive unless you actually do it. Oh, this is fascinating. Okay, we'll go Merle, and then we'll go Pnina, and then we'll get to the next topic.
When I was teaching volunteer management and writing material for how to get volunteers and manage them, etc., I would go to temple and some churches and synagogue boards and lay leaders and clergy. And I was told, well, we're the professionals. We shouldn't have to ask for help. And these people are paying dues to our organization. They don't want to help. They expect us to be able to do it. And I think that goes to what Roy was saying, that is a level of vulnerability in the sense that you just make assumptions and you don't go beyond the assumptions of how you should feel or someone else should feel.
And then what happens, like what Roy was saying earlier, but by asking for the help of your lay leaders, it could actually give them a feeling of being more involved.
Mm-hmm.
Like Roy was saying about Moses engaging the other people. Fabulous. Pnina.
I think he gave him, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I think Yitro was playing a part of a good parent. He gave him that courage and the security of do it, and it's going to work, and you are capable of doing it. You pick the people. So I think it's also who gave him the idea and how it was presented to him. And he said, you pick the people and you decide and you divide it and it's going to work. And he did, and he went back home because he did his duty. So the encouragement and the direction, he also gave him a map how to do it. He didn't just tell him do it. He gave him a map. He said, pick up so many people, blah, blah, blah. And Moses tried it. It worked. Then so he said, I did my job. He can do it. And he went back home.
Ben?
So it's the not just the ability that you know, he also showed him how.
Beautiful. Ben, you wrote a beautiful thing in the chat. Say it out loud, please.
Out loud, I think it shows us the genius of God giving these instructions and these ideas to stay away from nations run by a single person or a dictator, because then you get too much power in one person, no accountability, no checks and balances. We have so many examples of that in history, past history. And you got to have judges and other people making decisions. It can't all be one person.
Right on. I totally agree.
All
Sure,
right,
sure.
beautiful. Okay, here we go. Now we're gonna, and wow, okay. And I thought that was gonna be the least controversial. Here is the next piece that it just was in my state of mind. This is what I started thinking about. I'm gonna go back. Here it is. So Jethro, priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, his people, how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. So Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, right, Moses' wife, after she had been sent home, and her 2 sons, of whom one was named Gershom, that is to say, I have been a stranger in a foreign land, and the other named Eliezer, meaning that God of my father was my help, and he delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. Okay. It comes to this idea of like, in Jewish tradition, where there's a teaching that says that we have 3 names. We'll stop the share and then we'll go back in a second. That we have 3 names, right? One is the name given to us by our parents or our parents. The second is the name that people know us by or call us. And the third is what's considered our real name. The real name, meaning it's the name that God knows us by. And it doesn't necessarily have a sound, but it is the action. God knows us by our actions, right? The way we move through the world. What are we putting out into the world? The way that we move through the world. God knows us by our actions. That's our real name, right? And let's go back to the first part of that. It's the name that our parents give us. It's the name that we're known by. And so oftentimes when people give their children names, it's named after a person, named after an idea, named after a hope and a dream. So here, the name that Moses gives his children, I'll share the screen again. The name that Moses gives his children, Gershom, that is to say, I have been a stranger in a foreign land. That these children are a representation of the new reality, a new understanding of who they are as people, that they didn't belong there in Egypt in the first place, that they didn't belong in Egypt in the first place. And now God is helping with Eliezer, that God, my father, was my help, and he delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh, that God brought me out of this foreign land that I didn't belong in and is bringing me to safety.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Rabbi.
Yes, but so this is name 1 and 2, right? This is name 1 and 2. Now let's go back in time to the time of Joseph.
Mm.
And I know that Pnina has opinions on this one. What it said in Genesis, right? Joseph named his firstborn son, and this is the way I read it. Menashe, meaning God has made me forget completely my hardship and my parental home. That, all right, I don't live in where I initially came from. I don't live in my home. I'm in this new place. I forgot about that place. It's okay. All right, hardship, whatever, but now I'm in this new place. And that the second name, Ephraim, means God has made me fertile in the land of my affliction. So there's still a piece. There's still a piece of Joseph that understands this is not really our home. But life is pretty good here. Look, and I'm made fertile. The land is fertile. I'm doing really well. I am naming my children. It's like, the way I look at this is it's like the way that we Americanized it, and it's very easy for me to speak in platitudes, and I'm not making judgment here, though it does sound that I am, but I am too small of an existence of a person to make any massive sweeping judgments here. But this to me is like Jewish people changing their names when they came to America, right? Americanizing and feeling, look, we are just like you, Jewish people. We are just like you, Americans, non-Jews, right? We have our Sabbath, you have your Sabbath. We have our winter holiday, you have your winter holiday. Look, we are just like you. We are no different. And how that comes back to bite us in the tush. And it's Moses's naming of his children that is the direct response to what Joseph named his children, understanding a new reality, or not a new reality, but the actual reality, not lulled into compliance or acceptance of a false reality. And I equate that to our lives here in America, but it's not that extreme. Right. And here's what I mean by it's not that extreme. And here's what I mean by that. Because I'm sure all of us have been inundated over the last many, many months, those last, 100 some odd days now, almost 130 days of now more than ever, right? We've all had those emails and are now more than ever. I need to now more than let's be honest, it's not now more than ever, but it is now. And it is now more than ever for many in our generation and the generation that is after us, our children, our 20-somethings, our teens, and our little children. It is now more than ever for them.
What about college? Does it?
Rabbi, today's my son's 36th birthday.
Okay.
Mazel tov.
Thank
And
you.
it's a rude awakening for people. And with all the questions that I get and of people calling me to talk about the state of our world right now, I ask them, are you calling me because you're surprised, or are you calling me because you're not surprised and it's what do we do about this?
Yeah.
Because I personally am not surprised, but I think that also comes, that's also baked in my DNA as coming from, children of second generation Holocaust survivors and then also second, third generation Israeli, where, my great grandparents are fleeing Russia in the end of the 1800s.
It's amazing.
The pogroms are making their way to Free State Israel. So that's baked into my DNA.
Wow, Rabbi, that's an amazing story.
Versus people who, are not children of immigrants, are not, has traced their roots in America many generations back. But that's, again, just goes to the first part of our names, right? That the name we're given, the name that we're known by, and the way we kind of internalize those names. But then the next part, the name that God knows us by, it actually, I think, can call us to action, right? If it's about action. And I think of the teaching that all Israel is responsible for one another. And you play with what is Israel, right? Israel as being the state of Israel, Israel as being the biblical homeland, Israel as being the person Jacob, but Israel also being Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, or us, that we are Israel responsible for each other. And the way that God is going to know each and every one of us is through our actions. Yes, every day. It's like a new name. We create a new name every day for ourselves. And now what is our name to God and the Jewish people based on what's going on with our world, our lives moving forward from today on? Am I creating a name that God will know me by, that I am proud of, and knowing that I am responsible to Jewish people around the world? See, I told you it was a little bit of a soapbox. That's not my usual thing, but now I'll let you respond. Rebecca, go ahead.
Oh, I'm really happy, Rabbi, that you're bringing this up, because I always thought it was curious that these names were pointedly described. And I'm wondering, was that to say, watch out, don't assimilate?
Well, it's a great question. I don't know if it's watch out, don't assimilate, but don't deny where you come from in order to create a present and a future, right? Because if it's not, again, this is all my philosophy, my opinions, right? I'm not speaking for anyone really more than myself. If I don't educate myself, know where I come from and my people come from, then the present and the future of what I'm putting out there, I don't feel has really much of a foundation. It's a house of cards, right? But at the same time, I'm also an American. I live here in America. I don't live in the shtetl, right? I try and be a person of the community as well. It's not always right now, sadly, coming to bite us in the tush, but I still want to be cautiously optimistic. So not to deny where we come from for the sake of our present and our future. I think that sums it up a bit. Thank you, Rebecca. Other thoughts, comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Merle.
Is part of this go with the idea that when we name our children, that we don't name them after somebody that's still living?
Well, that's a fascinating question. And actually, that's really only an Ashkenazi tradition. Okay. There are many other additional Jewish cultures that do name after people who are still living. Also,
right. Sephardic does for sure.
Yeah, yes. And all the umbrellas that fall under that, right? I mean,
my question coming from when Sasha was born and the kids wanted to give her my mother's Hebrew name. So they had to call me for it. And the rabbi was with them. And she said to Sharon and Jason, is your mother okay with naming her after somebody that's still alive? My mother didn't have much of a life left after Sasha was born. And so they called me and they asked me, and I said, I can't think of anyone that would conjure up something horrible about my mother that they're going to attack Sasha with later on in her life. And I still believe that. You knew my mother.
Yes.
But I always thought that was fascinating, where she had no life at that point, and she only had, I think, maybe 5 months to live. We didn't know that, obviously, but I constantly think about that when I watch Sasha and act and watch her behavior. That, why was the rabbi worried? Because she knew my mother too. And where was that coming from?
Well, so perhaps from there, yet then what is the responsibility of you and for you and Sharon to make sure that Sasha knows who your mother was?
Oh, she knows.
All
They
right,
both
so
know.
there it is. There it is. That's like the responsibility moving forward.
In fact, she made a comment a few months ago. We were with her caregivers out for dinner, and they met us late after dinner, and we were standing in the parking lot, and Sharon and even Arnie and myself and this one caregiver were kind of bleary, teary-eyed. And Sasha said, I don't know why you're crying. And we said, just because we really miss great Grandma Relba. And her comment was, but you always tell me I'm great Grandma Relba's clone, so you shouldn't cry. You've got me.
Oh,
I mean, you know this child, and
crap.
this is what came from her. And I'm listening to this discussion about naming and how we name and everything else. And I'm this child is like in front of me, though she's at school right now. I keep thinking of these things that she says. So yeah, she knows my mother really well, even though she only had 4 months of her, 5 months of her.
Beautiful. Thank you, Merle. Penina, go ahead.
You're muted.
I think that we are already kind of like built in this chain because we're getting the same last name. We're continuing with the same last name. We are all forever. I was born de Botton. My father was from Greece, and then I got married and I became a Wiesel, which is another part of Elie Wiesel. And then I went to school myself, and in the classroom, I was asked for my name, my last name, and I said I'm a Pnina Wiesel. I used to be Pnina de Botton. And one of the students says to me, do you know, and what's your name of your grandfather? I said, Isaac de Botton. He said, Isaac de Botton, you are in the Encyclopedia Judaica. And I said, you kidding me? He said, no. So I went to this library and I got the Encyclopedia Judaica, and there was Isaac de Botton. And it says the whole story that he was from the Inquisition, people that, survived the Inquisition and wind up in Italy. And he had a son that converted to Christianity and then went back. He was a Talmudic scholar, and he went back to Judaism later on. And then I went to babysit somebody's apartment with my husband, and I see a book on the shelf, and it says Alain de Botton, The Philosophy of Traveling. And I'm reading and I'm saying de Botton, and there is a last name and a site to go look into it. So Talia get on the computer, and we text this. He's a professor of philosophy in England, in London, and very popular. And we're texting this guy, and it turned out to be a cousin. He has a grandmother by the name of Matilda. My sister's name is Matilda, named after a great grandmother. Listen to this. And then he has, his father settled in Egypt later on, but he wound up in England, in Britain. And he has a grandfather by the name of Isaac de Botton, just like mine. The whole family tree, he put it online for me. So what I'm trying to tell you, we have a last name, and those last names already makes you belong. So I discovered this whole other new thing because of my last name, my maiden name. So the last name gives you actually your frame already that you belong, believe me. You don't have to name the person.
But people change it all the time. So yes, that chain exists, but we can also deny that chain, which a lot of people do.
Then that's a foolish thing to do.
And what happens when one denies the chain?
That's not good.
The whole thing can fall apart.
I'm telling you.
That's where I am.
And I have 14% Italian.
Mazel tov.
Which shows me that this guy that converted to Christianity and then went back to Judaism produced something like a creature maybe like me.
You're beautiful.
All right.
You.
All right, now we're going to move to the next topic with a few minutes left, but I can't help but think about this cuckoo thing that is really at the forefront right now, sadly. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here it is.
Rabbi, you're great in theater. You should be an actor.
Yeah.
Funny, you're
All
very
right.
good.
Let me check this out.
I love watching
All
your
right.
shows.
This is cuckoo. This is all right. So, with this cuckoo business going on in The Hague. And
Oh, wow.
one of the things that South Africa pointed to was this verse that Benjamin Netanyahu was using as a metaphor, right? Was using as a metaphor where it says, Amalek came and fought with Israel at Rephidim, and Joshua overwhelmed the people of Amalek with the sword. Then the Lord said to Moses, inscribe this in a document as a reminder and read it aloud to Joshua. I will utterly blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. And Moses built an altar and named it Adonai Nisi. He said it means hand upon the throne of the Lord will be at war with Amalek throughout the ages. Have you all heard that before or seen that before in one form or another and heard this name Amalek? Amalek is like considered the forever enemy of the Jewish people, right? It's used as a like they said that Haman and his family came from the descendants of Amalek, right? People say, Adolf Hitler, is descendants of Amalek. It's used as a metaphor, as a way of talking about those who wish us harm or to destroy us. And that, we're going to fight against that. But then, Benjamin Netanyahu, for whatever, this is not political. This is not my opinions, but is my perception. It was like he used this just as a way, speaking to who he was speaking to, as people who understand who this name is, as a way of saying, look, we're under attack and we're going to fight back, right? We're under attack and we're going to fight back. And he's using this because this is, I'm also thinking because he's speaking to his base, who is, very much knowledgeable in all of these things. And B, just as using it as a metaphor, not calling for the completely wiping out of the genocide. And he's referring to Hamas. He's not referring to all the Palestinian people. He's referring to a specific organization, right? A specific ideology. Yet
We
then
got you, Rabbi. We got you.
it's then being twisted and used. Again, this is my own, I'm just speaking my own truth and my own
You're
opinion.
telling the truth, Rabbi.
This is mine. I'm not going to speak for other people.
I agree with you.
But the fact that we're talking about all of this, we're talking about we getting complacent, right? Being surprised, then recognizing a little bit more of what I believe to be the reality, and then having this concept that we really need to take care of each other because others won't take care of us. And that's how we create our name. And then using this as this week, here is an example of the way things are twisted and how do we respond to what I believe to be a gross understanding of who we are as a people.
But I got Wilshire Boulevard Temple got my back.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Thank you so much. I owe you 20 million.
Any comments to that statement? Again, it's a little bit more preachy today. I'm not usually like that. I apologize. But it's just, since, coming back from Israel after the trip, really kind of changed my head a bit. you know, to see a people who really feel so alone, and just going there to tell them and let them know that they're not alone. Right?
Don't
When
cry,
I
Rabbi.
went, my
I-
whole purpose was to give people hugs. Right? That's what I wanted to do. And I shared this with you, that everyone was thanking us for being there. It's like, what, we didn't do anything. We're here for you. But they would thanked us. Out of all the stuff that they're going through, they were thanking us because it made them feel that they weren't alone. And that is what I think it all comes down to. That we need to take care of each other, to let each other know that we are not alone in the face of adversity, to say the least. Pnina, bring us home. We've got 2 minutes.
Yeah, what I wanted to say didn't matter to you whether they were Orthodox, Reform, or Conservative, correct? Sure. You felt for all of them the same, and we loved everybody the same, correct? This is the point, this is the moment that the realization that we are all one. It's all the same.
Amen.
Okay.
All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Well done. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. And to be
Hello, everyone.
continued.
Thank you.
And
Hi, Merle. Bye, Merle.
Ben, next
Bye.
time you at the
Love
tent,
you.
better come say hello to me.
Good.
Kiss your grandkids.
Your best sermon
We'll
from
say hello,
all.
Rabbi Eshel.
Thank you,
Thank you
Rabbi.
for teaching
Bye,
today.
everybody.
Today was
Shalom.
perfect.
you.
Thank you. Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom,
shalom,
everyone.
Heavy.
everybody.
Shabbat
Heavy.
shalom, everybody.
Bye, Panina. Bye, Panina. See you later.